you're looking to dive into topics on how to live a happier, healthier, more fit, and long lifespan, then you've come to the right podcast. Livin the Dream with me, Coach Damian Evans. Together, we will explore the topics on all things health, fitness, and wellness. Together, we will be lifelong learners on this journey to living the ultimate dream. What up, Dream Team? Coach D here, coming at you from beautiful sunny San Diego. And in today's episode, we're going to be answering questions asked by my favorite people in the world. You, the Livin the Dream Team. This podcast was started with the intention of helping inform, educate, and assist the people that I coach with questions that they commonly ask. I always felt that I had to either rush my answers due to either people being in a hurry or due to me having back-to-back sessions where there's not a lot of time to chat in between. So I turned those questions into Masterclass episodes that broke down the entire subject and concluded with offering tangible action items to help crush our health and fitness goals. But sometimes I'll get commonly asked questions that don't really need an entire Masterclass episode to answer, or that I could probably answer a little bit quicker. So that brings us to today's episode. We are going to be going to break down a few common questions that I get asked, rapid fire style, and I'll offer my advice, my experience, and my opinions, and if necessary, whatever science-based facts that I find that will help the majority of people who may have that same burning question. If you'd like to submit a question to be answered on a Q&A episode, you can DM me on Instagram at CoachDamien_SD, CoachDamien_SD, or you can email me at DamienE585@gmail.com, DamienE585@gmail.com, and I'll make sure I can get to as many as I can of the commonly asked questions. But before we get to the Q&A episode, I want to start by thanking the sponsors of this podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Eat the Frog Fitness. Eat the Frog Fitness is the most personalized group fitness experience that you will ever find. All Frog Squad members are assessed every 8 weeks to see and track their progress. The programming is backed by science-based periodization, which means that your sessions are designed to progress over time and get the intensity to increase over time, as well as programmed in recovery weeks. Check out any of the Eat the Frog Fitness locations in Southern California, and if you mention the Livin the Dream podcast, you'll receive the first 2 training sessions complimentary. Another one of the sponsors is Dirt Food, healing and delicious superfoods made by hand and made with love. Dirt Food was created by a local San Diego friend of mine, Nika Blunt, who was going through her battle with cancer, and she came up with this cancer-fighting superfood to help defeat the 2 different types of cancer that she had. Visit eatdirtfood.com, and use the discount code DIRTYDAMIEN for 10% off your entire order. Remember, Damien is Damien, Dirty Damien, all one word. And now on to our first question of the day. Our first question comes from Alan, and Alan asks, how do I build 6-pack abs? I get asked this question so often. You actually have no idea. A majority of the time it's from the guys, but I also get, how do I get those lines on my stomach? Question from the females as well. And what a lot of people forget about the abs is that they are a muscle just like any other muscle on your body. And they should be treated like any other muscle on your body when you're looking to strengthen or you're looking for growth. So here's where most people go wrong, and they end up getting really frustrated when it comes to your abs. If you want to grow your biceps, would you take a 1-pound dumbbell and curl it 100 times? I hope your answer is no, because that amount of weight, depending on who you are, of course, is probably not enough to create an overload on that muscle. The stimulus is probably not enough to make that body send a muscle building signal for growth. Then we look at how people usually try to get abs, and yeah, they lay on the ground and they do 100 crunches a day. Or they do sit-ups with their feet held down by a weight and they just do as many as they can and then they call it a night. Or they do planking for 3 minutes at a time. And while these exercises are great for some things, these are the similar way of doing high reps, low intensity that you would do with 1-pound bicep curls. You may be challenging your muscular endurance by busting out those high amount of reps with that light weight, but you're looking for growth, which is exactly what you're looking for if you want your abs to pop or those lines to start peeking out. You want growth. Growth, or the scientific word that we're going to use, is muscle hypertrophy. Yes, I know that's weird. Muscle hypertrophy is simply a fancy way of saying bigger muscles, or as most refer to it, quote, more toned muscles. Toned is actually a made up word by the fitness industry back in the day when women thought that if they lifted weights, they would get big like Arnold Schwarzenegger. If you ever tell me that you want to get toned, I'm going to tell you, okay, great. You want to lose the body fat around that muscle and you want to increase the muscle size. But ladies, don't freak out. Increasing muscle size will not make you look big. It will make you look toned. And you will almost certainly do not have the hormones to get huge and bulky like bodybuilders, or at least not naturally. If you want to go the supplemental route, I'm sure there's some things that we could do for you. So that brings us back to how do we get our abs to pop? Well, you have to work them out the same way that you want them to grow or get hypertrophy on any other muscle. The best way to do this is to choose exercises that you can only do a maximum of 12 to 15 reps. And 15 is still on the real high side. If the exercise that you choose, you can do more than 15 reps of, you may get there one day if you do it that way, but you're not using the most optimal way of creating enough of an overload to ask that muscle to grow. So for me, my favorite ab building exercise, all of the exercises that I love are pretty advanced because I try to choose exercises that I can't do more than 12 reps of. And I've been doing them for a long time, so I've been advancing them slowly over time. And what I do is going to be completely different than what you do most likely. But for me, I absolutely love hanging leg raises. So I'll jump up and I'll hang from a bar, and with my legs straight, I'm going to lift my legs with my abs, no momentum, until my shins or my toes tap the bar above me, and then I will lower my straight legs under control using my abs. Now, I can probably rep out a max of 15 of those before I fail if I really go slow and if I really concentrate on no momentum, abs doing the work, not swinging, not using hip flexors, that kind of thing. But if I do 3 sets of 12 of those, oh my gosh, my abs are on fire. And I definitely ask them to do a maximal effort with an overload effect. If you're not there yet, which is understandable, most people aren't there, you could always do hanging knee tucks. Because the more you bend your knees, the less torque on the abs and the less weight you're asking the abs to lift. So you can hang on a bar and just tuck your knees into your chest. Now you have to do this the right way. You have to do it in a way that you want to show your butt to the front so that you're actually getting some spinal flexion, because there is a way where you could just be using your hip flexors and you could just pull your knees up and drop your knees down, where you're not actually getting that tuck of the pelvis to get the crunch of those six-pack muscles. If you can't hold yourself up at this time, totally understandable, then maybe you'll do a lying leg raise on the ground. So you're laying on the ground and you're raising your straight legs up and down. Or a slightly elevated leg raise. If you go to a gym or if you have a decline bench, you can kind of lay on it backwards where your head is higher than your legs and you're lifting your legs that way. And then some gyms even have what are called Roman chairs. And these are going to be those weird looking things that usually have a pull-up bar over them where you sit in them with your forearms holding you up and you have a little pad on your back stabilizing you, and you can just lift your legs from there. I'm going to include a couple of YouTube videos here with some progressions and regressions of the hanging leg raise. Just remember, the goal is to pick an ab exercise that you are unable to do more than 15 reps of. There's endless amounts of reps. If you go onto YouTube and you search advanced ab exercises, pick one of the ones that you can do that hit the right rep range that doesn't create pain. A lot of times when we lack the strength in the abs, you're gonna get pain in the low back when it tries to take over. So if you ever start to get that low back pain sensation, you've gone too advanced. You need to regress and earn your way up to that exercise. Now, the hanging leg raise is going to be a super challenging exercise. There's going to be many other exercises that you can choose from. Let's take a quick look at the muscles that you're trying to strengthen here. You have the six-pack muscle, which is called the rectus abdominis, and it flexes your spine. So it's going to be that muscle right there, that superficial muscle that everybody sees, that everybody wants, that six-pack right up front in the middle of your abs. If you're laying down, and you take your chest closer to your thighs, then you're hitting that rectus abdominis muscle. It flexes the spine. There's a caveat here. There's a reason that the six pack muscles are tiny little sections and not just one long muscle like the bicep. And that is because each section is a section that the spine bends, and it's an opportunity for one of those small ab sections to shorten and contract. Now, this is super important to know because let's say we're doing one of our other favorite ab exercises, which I love to do all the time. I do it probably 3 times a week, is the decline bench sit-up. You could perform this in a couple different ways. There's no real wrong way unless you feel pain, of course. If there's ever pain, it doesn't matter what, if you have perfect form or not. Pain means that it's the wrong variation and it's the wrong movement for you. The way that I feel that the decline sit-up, you get the most impact on your six-pack muscle and you take a little bit more of those hip flexors out of the equation. The way that I feel a sit-up should be done, especially for the six-pack muscle, whether decline, incline, laying on the floor, whatever it is, the way that I feel the sit-up hits the rectus abdominis six-pack muscle the best is by articulating your spine slowly throughout the rep. What do I mean by that? Okay, well, each vertebra of the spine has the ability to bend forward a little bit and then the ability to bend backwards a little bit. Now, most of the time we can bend forward a little bit easier because that's all we do every day, all day, and that's called flexing. So when the spine bends forward, flexing. If you can bend the spine backwards, it's called extending or extension. So try this. If you're in a place where you can do this safely, lay down on the ground and put your arms out in front of you on your thighs, palms down, extending them long like you're reaching for your toes, but everything is still flat on the ground, even your head. So your arms are out, palms down on your thighs. You're laying on the ground on your back, and everything's on the ground, including your head. Now, try to lift each of your vertebrae off the ground one at a time. You're going to start by sliding your hands down your legs without using momentum, and you're going to start by bringing your chin to your chest. Now that your head is off the floor, lift a little bit more and the shoulder blades start to come off the ground. Your hands get a little bit closer to your knees and your shins. Now lift a little bit more. This is going to be really challenging for most of us. Even just right here at this point, you're going to feel your abs crunching. You're going to feel tension. You might not even be able to go any further than this point. If you can, keep flexing all the way up through the movement, one vertebra at a time until you're completely folded over, belly button to thighs, chest to knees, and forehead to shins. Once you're all the way at the top, now reverse the movement and roll back to the starting position as slowly as possible, placing one vertebra at a time back on the ground. This right here is spinal control and how I personally love to develop the six-pack rectus abdominis muscle once I can start adding some weight, of course, once I've mastered this movement. If you're unable to visualize what I just described, I included a ton of links in the show notes of this Q&A episode. Check out the link that is called Really Cool Regression to learn how to articulate your back. You're going to use a little band or a little belt or a little rope or whatever you have around the house, and you can do this by helping with that object. Just go ahead and check out that video, Really Cool Regression of to learn how to articulate your back. And then you're also going to learn the technique of articulating your spine if you watch the video labeled Physio Ball Crunches and Active Planks. Physio Ball Crunches and Active Planks, if you check those two out. If you're like, dude, there's no way I'm doing any of what you just talked about. Either you feel pain or you lack the strength, or most commonly, you just have too much in the way with your belly to perform this exercise correctly. That's totally fine. There are many ways to regress and progress these moves. I recommend starting on an elevated bench where your upper body is higher than your lower body, and you can use gravity to help. Then slowly bring the angle of that bench down or surface down until you're on flat ground. Then you can slowly start to get to that decline surface where the head is above the lower body, and you can start using gravity to help add that resistance. Physio balls are also great because you're up high. They also add an element of instability that might be challenging for some, but it's also really good to work those stabilizing muscles while you're bending over that ball and doing those crunches. If you stick to the rule of thumb of picking exercises that you can do less than 15 reps of, then you're going to be set up for muscle hypertrophy or growing your abs. as we've been tricked to say, toning your abs. You also need to focus on rotation. So your six-pack muscle is just one of the many muscles in your midsection. If you want a defined midsection, you have to train these muscles as well. I'm going to include a video link of a follow-along workout called 8-minute V-cut abs. It's a little hokey, it's a little whatever, but it works good. I actually really like the exercises. This will give you an idea of how to target your obliques, which are those side body muscles that look really nice once you get them defined, with some body weight exercises. It will have you doing the exercise for 40 seconds on and then 20 seconds of rest. If these exercises get to a point where you can do them super easy and you can bust out 40 seconds no problem, then it's time to move on to more challenging variations and load up those variations. But for most of us, these body weight exercises are just challenging enough for you to hit maybe like 15 reps in 40 seconds and really feel the burn. Now, if you have access to a cable system, maybe you have a 24-hour membership or a LA Fitness membership, or you have one in your apartment complex gym, I don't know. If you have a cable system, my favorite rotational exercises of any type are cable chops. I'm going to include a video on how to do cable chops in the show notes. You grab the handle, your arms are extended, and you rotate your body side to side. Really, really great for toning the midsection and hitting the obliques. Lastly, after focusing on your six-pack exercises and your oblique exercises, you're really going to want to work on core bracing. And this is what most people leave out. You have another muscle in your core, and it's called your transverse abdominis, or your TVA. Transverse abdominis. Visualize this muscle as an internal weight belt. You have a weight belt muscle that goes around, all the way around your body, and allows you to brace your core. If you can hit spinal flexion, six-pack, if you can hit torso rotation, obliques, and you can hit your internal bracing muscle, your TVA, your transverse abdominis, then you're going to be set up really pretty for a strong midsection and hopefully one day a defined midsection that has those abs popping. Now, how often should you train your abs? Common question. Well, it's just like any other muscle. If you hit it hard with a hypertrophy session, a growth session, a low rep, high weight session, meaning you're using exercises that you can't do a ton of reps of, then you're probably going to be really sore until you find what your sweet spot is. Take days off that you're sore, but if you're not, I say work them out. And that's just me. I used to work out abs every single day, and I used to do it with my main muscle groups that I was lifting. I usually threw some different exercises in with supersets. So for example, I'd get on for chest day. I'd do a barbell bench press. I'd rack it. I'd grab some dumbbells and I would do some dumbbell bench press right afterwards. And then I'd put those dumbbells down and I would lay back on the bench and I'd do some leg lifts. And that would be a triple superset. Some people call it a giant set. And then I would rest and I would do that for a few rounds. Now, frequency is definitely king, but only to a point where you're not overtraining the muscle and not letting it recover. So frequency is king. The more you can do it, the better, but only to a point where you're not overtraining the muscle and working it out when it's super sore and becoming to a point where it's affecting your everyday life. When I was at my peak training, I was doing abs every day. And I actually did this program called Ab Ripper X. It's part of the P90X program with Tony Horton. P90X, I know it gets a lot of crap for its programming because it's kind of high intense, but it actually was a really effective ab program. It's called Ab Ripper X. I think because of copyright, it's really hard to find online, but you can find people on YouTube doing Ab Ripper X. And so you can follow along them watching Ab Ripper X, if you know what I mean. So you can't really get it for free. If you want to buy the P90X program, you can do that. The Ab Ripper X program comes with it. But just YouTube, Ab Ripper X, it's 3 different words. And just watch people doing it and follow them doing it. It's a pretty nasty ab routine. I wouldn't do it many more than 3 times a week. I was doing it like 5 or 6 times a week for a while there, and I really loved it. But I wasn't working out sore muscles. That's kind of the caveat. I recommend starting your ab routine 3 days per week, doing 2 to 3 different exercises for 2 to 3 sets. So pick 2 to 3 exercises, Do those for 2 to 3 sets. It should take about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on what you're doing and how much weight you're using and how much rest you're getting. And try to hit those abs 3 days per week. See how you feel and move up or down from there. And last thing with this question that usually goes without saying, but I'll mention it anyway just so that we can be thorough. Your abs are not going to show if you have high belly fat. If you have high body fat in your belly area, your abs will not show. It doesn't matter how hard you train your abs. It just won't happen. And the more crunches that you do will not affect the amount of body fat that goes away from your belly. Body fat loss is a systemic issue. So it's a full system issue. Your body is going to pull from the stores that it wants to. And usually, this is something that I heard, it might be bro science. Usually, it's in the reverse order that it put it on. So whatever goes on first usually is the last to leave. So that's really like our problem areas. Fellas, the belly, the back. Ladies, the hips, the butt, the belly. Now, if you have body fat and it sits on top of the muscle, it's going to hide every line of definition until you lose that body fat. Ladies, usually you need to be around somewhere below 22% body fat to get the ab lines to really show. And fellas, usually around 10 to 12% body fat or lower. So when they say that abs are made in the kitchen, they're talking about your diet being dialed in so that you can drop your body fat and show the definition of all your hardcore work. So recap, drop your body fat percentage through healthy diet and calorie deficit. Once you have your body fat where you want it, you can then start to build your six-pack muscles, the obliques, the transverse, the heavy exercise training. Technically, you could do either the heavy lifting first and then lose the body fat, or you could lose the body fat and then the heavy lifting. The caveat here is that it's really, really hard to build muscle and lose body fat at the same time because those are two conflicting signals being sent to the body. One is catabolic, one is anabolic, one is breaking down, one is building up. And the more advanced of a trainer or the more advanced training you are, the harder it's going to be for you to do both at the same time. Newbies tend to be able to build and cut down on body fat a little bit easier than those that have trained for a long time. To build muscle, you must be in a very small calorie surplus, meaning you eat, let's say, around 100 more calories than you're using. And to lose body fat, you got to do the opposite. Eat a small calorie deficit, eat just a little bit less than you use. While it's hard to do both at the same time, you definitely can, especially if this is new. It's going to take longer for most of us if we try to do this both at the same time. And that's okay. Just set a game plan with how you want to attack it and execute. Just because it takes longer does not mean that it's worse. Moving on. Yes, I love that question. Nice job, Alan. Thank you. Okay, next question comes from Anna. Anna asks, I never know what weight selection I should use in a group fitness setting. The instructors give me recommendations, so I usually just choose the lighter recommendation, but sometimes I feel like I'm not doing anything, and other times I feel like it's way too heavy. Is there any way for me to know what the right weight selection should be? This is such a great question, Anna. This is awesome. And as with anything in fitness, it definitely depends on the person. I know you're not going to love it. I'm going to give that answer all the time. It depends on how well trained you are. Which, if you're asking this question, you're probably still fairly new to what you're doing. It depends on what exercise you're doing and what muscle group you're working. It depends on what your rep range is or what the recommended rep range is. And most importantly, it depends on what your goal is for doing the exercise. So in order for me to answer this, let's make a little avatar of who I would be talking to. And that might help get it a little bit more dialed in. I'm going to say this is a middle-aged female with a 9-to-5 job and a family who signed up for a group fitness session and just wants to lose a little body fat and tone up their muscles. Remember, I'm saying tone up. Tone is made up term by the fitness industry, so I'm just saying wants a little bit of muscle definition. Increased muscle while decreasing the body fat around the muscle. Let's say the focus of the day is strength. You have a strength focus when you go into that workout, and the reps you are being given are 10 reps per exercise. So it's strength focus, 10 reps is the goal. You see that you have to do some bicep curls, you got some weighted goblet squats, and you got some lateral raises. Now that we have our made-up avatar, some built-in parameters, this gives it context. We can explain what weights this person should grab. Now, usually in a group fitness setting, we have weights all around us that start around 5 pounds and they go up to maybe, let's say, max 50. You might have access to slightly heavier weights depending on where you're at, but most of the time it's somewhere around 5 pounds to 50-pound dumbbells or less. If our goal is strength, we want to make sure that we're finishing our set with only 2 reps left in the tank. Meaning if you bust out a set, your last rep should be really close to you not being able to do any more reps. You hit your last rep with good form. It doesn't have to be perfect form, but good form. After that last rep, your next 2 reps would be really ugly and you might not even be able to complete those 2 more. That's the sweet spot. If you finish your set and you know you could have done 5, 10, 20 more reps, you've essentially created very little change in that muscle. You may have burned a handful of calories through movement alone, but that muscle most likely has not been asked to grow or get stronger. So this will take a few rounds of trial and error. Yes, trial and error experiences for you to get it down correctly, which this is a good thing. You usually get about 3 or 4 sets of an exercise in a group fitness setting. So on your first set, make your best guess. If it's the bicep curl that we're talking about here, I probably would grab a medium weight selection from the rack. I'm not going to grab the 5s if I'm this avatar person, and I'm definitely not going to grab the 30s or the higher. I'm going to grab maybe somewhere around 15s and see how many reps I can do with the 15-pound weight. Your first set should be your feel-out set or your warm-up set, depending on how far into the workout you are. So with those 15s, I'm going to do these bicep curls and I'm going to get 10 reps. And I know that I could do way more. Then the next set, I can do a few things here to increase the intensity from the first set. Your first option, obviously we can go heavier in weight. As I increase the weight, my reps should drop down. So if I grab the heavier weights, it should bring my reps down. And at that point, I'm just doing trial and error to see if I can find my sweet spot. If they are asking for 10 reps and I want to get to 10, with the last 2 reps being a struggle, form might even suffer a little bit on that last final rep, and that's okay. There's no way that I can do another 2 reps after that 10th rep. That's when I know I hit the perfect weight selection for me. If you can finish your exercise and immediately go right into the next exercise, no problem, without feeling uncomfortable at all, then essentially you're just doing cardio with weights. You're not resistance training. You're just moving the weights around quickly and you're moving from one exercise to the next. You're not getting the benefits of real weight training. After each set, you should need to take a 15-second breather just to collect yourself because of the exertion from those last couple reps. Now, let's say I grab a heavier set of weights and I fall way short of the 10 reps. For example, I can easily do 10 with the lighter weight. I grab the heavier weights on the next set and, oh my gosh, this is extremely heavy. I can only do 4 reps. That's way short of my 10 rep goal that I wanted. So what do? My personal favorite strategy here in this situation is to do a drop set. Hit the heavier weight for as many reps as you can. When you fail, you immediately drop the heavier weight and grab a lighter weight. There's no rest in between. You're moving there as quickly as possible, and then you're going to complete the rest of your reps with the lighter weight. In this way, you know that you overloaded the muscle because you hit that muscle with the heavier weight. You squeezed out as many as you can, and then you just burn it out with the lighter weight at the end. So if I got 4 with the heavier weight, I do a nice little drop set. I grab the lighter weight, and I finish out the next 6 reps, hitting my 10, and that's that drop set. You'll also know if you're getting stronger when you do it this way because you're going to slowly start to see your heavier weight selection go up in reps from 4 to 5 to 6. And you'll see that the less lighter weight, the burnout reps, drop from 6 to 5 to 4. And eventually you're going to be doing your full 10 reps with that heavier weight with this drop set strategy. It's really cool to see those objective rep counts increasing. It's super motivating as a new person watching yourself get stronger. So that's called drop sets. The next option, if you're not going to go heavier, if you have some sort of maybe mental block about grabbing heavier weights, or maybe you're worried about injury, you're maybe concerned you won't be able to keep your form and you're super strict on your form, I totally get that. There's another strategy to bridge the gap between now and then one day helping you get to those heavier weights. And that strategy is to play with your rep tempo. Change the speed at which you perform the reps. Now, there is a lot of skill to this, and we've talked briefly on this topic in the past. You have 4 different phases of the rep. Usually we really only talk about 3 of them. You have the part of the rep where you are lowering the weight. You have the part of the rep where you are lifting the weight. And then you have the 2 other parts at the top and the bottom of the rep. Usually we just think of the top of the rep where we squeeze. You can change how long each of these phases take to adjust your intensity. One of my favorite things to say as a coach is, the slower you lower, the stronger you get. And there's a reason I say it this way, and it's because the slower you lower, the stronger you get. I say it because most people let gravity do most of the work as the weight lowers. They just let gravity pull the weight down rather than fighting gravity and resisting gravity and making the muscles do the work to lower, which means they're missing out on essentially almost half of the rep. If we can maximize and squeeze all we can out of each rep, then essentially we can do half the amount of reps and we can utilize our rest periods a little bit more productively. So instead of increasing the weight, you can slow down your rep. Think about this. Usually the opposite speed that your body defaults to is going to be the most impactful stimulus to create change or growth to that muscle group. Your body adapts to what is the easiest. Your body defaults to the most automatic way of moving to save energy and to become as efficient as possible. That's how our bodies evolved. So if we can force our body to do something that it's not used to, something it doesn't like to do, well, then a stress will be applied to the body, and in that way, it needs to adapt from that stress. And that's really the whole point of resistance training. It cracks me up. I get people telling me this all the time. After I show them the more inefficient way to do an exercise, they look at me wide-eyed and they go, "What? That is so much harder." And I'm like, "Fantastic. Now do that until you can't do it anymore." And continue doing it until it becomes easy, because then the body will have adapted to that, and then you can change it to become more uncomfortable in another way. So you have the strategy of increasing your weight every single set until you hit the rep range that you want, and that point where you have no more reps to give at the end of each set. That's a great strategy. You have drop sets where you start heavy and you do as many as you can, and then you drop the heavier weights. You burn it out with the lighter weights. That's also really great. And then you have tempo play. Slow down the lowering phase of the rep, squeeze longer at the top of the rep, go super duper slow on the way up with a huge squeeze at the top under control. Think, okay, just here's the strategy. If it's harder, if it's more uncomfortable, it's usually better for what we're trying to do. Of course, pain is an immediate timeout stop. Never go through pain, just discomfort. Get comfortable being a little uncomfortable. Small stresses to the body over time create compounding changes that accelerate your progress towards your goals. Okay, great. Hopefully that helps a little bit. I know there's going to be literally countless strategies that you can use to know what weights to grab, but it will take some trial and error for almost all of them. So start with those 3 and then see what you do, and then we'll probably address more strategies in the future. All right, let's do one more question here. Last question comes from James, and James asks, "What is the fastest way that I can lose fat? I have a vacation coming in a month, and I want to be sexy AF." What is the fastest way I can lose body fat? I have a vacation coming up in a month, and I want to be sexy AF. For those of you that don't know what AF is, it's sexy as F word. So I'm going to be honest, this is probably the question that I get asked most often. And sometimes it's a joke, and a lot of the times they really mean it. I get it, right? Special events like vacations and weddings, or anything that involves a swimsuit or anything that you have to dress up in really nice, tight-fitting clothes, usually those are the times that people really want to dial in their fitness and they really think about eating healthy and exercising more. So I totally get it. But I have to say here, I have a kind of a buzzkill statement. I'm sorry. Anytime there is a question of what is the best way to blank, or what is the best supplement to take for blank, or what is the best exercise for blank, whoever is asking this doesn't know our number one rule. Our number one rule states that when it comes to fitness and nutrition, everything is individualized and you have to do what works for you. Rule number one, do what works for you. This is not the answer that person wants to hear. I already know this. What the person is asking when they ask this question is, help, I'm desperate to find the answer to my issue. I have tried everything that I can think of, and I have no idea what to do next. I am a victim of our society's normal desires to get what I want as fast as possible without doing much work to attain it. Now, they might not say it like that, but that's what I hear when you guys ask that question. And if we could ask the question in this way, I believe we would have a little bit better ability to figure out the steps to figuring our puzzles out. But instead, we go to Dr. Google or old reliable YouTube, and we type in best way to blank. All that this does is put us at risk for being preyed upon by people trying to sell you the magic pill, which does not exist. I promise you, the magic pill does not exist. If it existed, we would have it. Or you'll find people that are trying to trick you to believe whatever narrative that they are pushing. Experts in the field will give you the right answer. You know that you're on the right path if you're asking people and they say it depends on you. It depends on what context. It depends. If someone says that this is the best way, you know that they're full of crap. Friends, the best way to lose fat is simple. Just cut off an arm or cut off a leg. You'll lose weight fast. Okay, is that too extreme? I get it. What about this? Just stop eating for a week, jump on a treadmill, and run for 5 hours a day. #health, right? There are so many ways to lose weight fast. It's not actually that hard. But the more intense that you push and stress your body, the more it's going to fight back, push back, bounce back, and try to find its baseline from homeostasis. And it's usually going to miss its mark and go too far. Usually the more extreme the action, the more extreme your body's response. So if you want to lose weight fast as possible, all right, you asked for it. I'm going to include a link to a T Nation article, which is a T Nation and bodybuilding.com. These are like one of the two oldest forums that bodybuilders and people in fitness have been using for years since the internet existed. I'm going to include a link to a T Nation article that is titled Ripped in 4 Weeks. You're going to read it, and it's going to show you how bodybuilding competitors or bikini competitors lose weight the 4 weeks up to their competition. There is a strategy for your style of training and where you want to back off on the weights and you want to go lighter and you want to increase your volume, meaning higher reps at a lower weight and more sets. You want to increase your volume, but you don't want to go into that huge strength phase where you're doing super low reps and super high weight. And then it'll tell you how to manipulate your water and your nutrition to be able to dehydrate yourself so that you can look as shredded as possible for the event. But let me get this straight. I do not recommend this. I'm going to give the article just because I know that's why a lot of you are here, and there are ways to do it, but I do not recommend this. But I know that this is why some of you came here for this question. If you want to be extreme, if you want to take the risk and of the extreme bounce back, and some of you guys are okay with that, and who am I to judge? I've done unhealthy things to my body all the time. I'm just warning you now, in my experience, 90% of the people that do it this way will end up long-term with more body fat, unhealthier body composition, and less overall satisfaction with the way that they look. So check out the article in the show notes if you want to see what I'm talking about. But if you're still here and you haven't gone to the show notes yet and click that T Nation link, let's discuss what I personally recommend with my clients when they're trying to do what they're trying to do here. In 1 month, you can lose about 0.5% to 1% of your body fat per week. Each week, you could lose up to a half to 1% of body fat per week, depending on where you are right now. Obviously, the lower your body fat percentage is, the less percent you're going to lose. Most people asking this question are on the higher side of the percentage, which is kind of nice because you can lose a higher percentage of body fat more safely and sustainably than someone who has a lower body fat percentage. The first thing that you should do is figure out how much food you can eat to maintain the weight that you are right now. This usually takes months. And if you're asking this question, you obviously don't have months. Being able to figure out how much food that you eat to maintain, being able to cut some calories and add some movement there, that takes a long time. That takes a lot of trial and error. That takes being strict with your tracking. It's really challenging. I'm not going to lie. So instead, let's have some strategies that can kind of help us get there a little faster without taking that time commitment, which we all should do, but without taking that time commitment of tracking. So let's go with the goal is to take out as much or all of your processed foods. If you can eat foods that do not have a label, real foods do not need labels. As soon as humans process food, they stick a label on it. So apples, spinach, ribeye, salmon, these foods do not have a label. They are what they are. Listen to this. If nature made it, eat it. If man made it, leave it. If nature made it, eat it. If man made it, leave it. So eat real foods. If you can cut out all your processed foods, all your manufactured foods, you will be set up for success without counting calories at all. I promise you. Second, increase your water intake, and the only liquid you drink will be water. 0 liquid calories. Now, yes, there's tea and there's coffee and whatever, but I know it's extreme for some of us. Yes, but is it more extreme than the T Nation article of chopping off a limb? Not even close. Drink only water and you will be set up for success. You should have a half-gallon water bottle with you at all times. Anytime you're bored, drink. Anytime you're hungry, drink. Anytime you pick it up and move somewhere, drink. You're going to pee about 15 times a day. Great. You're on the right track. But coach, I heard if you drink too much water, you could die. Wrong. Okay, not wrong. Yes, if you consume too much of anything, you could die. This will not happen to you. Okay, if I'm going to cover myself here, I'm going to say don't consume more than 2.5, 3 gallons a day. You're going to be good. Don't chug huge amounts of water all at once. You'll be good. Just be reasonable. Consistently and slowly drink your water from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, and you will be fine. Number 3, third, increase your daily movement. This is a non-negotiable. I'm not just talking about adding another workout into your 3 a week and increasing it to 4. No, I'm talking about never sit for more than an hour at a time. Every time that you eat, you're going to go take a 10-minute or more walk somewhere. I don't care if it's just around your living room. Outside in nature with no shoes is obviously more preferable, but it doesn't have to be. Just walk. I'm not talking a 5-minute mile pace here either. I'm talking a brisk walk like you have somewhere to be, but you're also enjoying the view. Maybe stack your walks with music or podcasts or audiobooks or phone calls. You have 24 hours in the day, and being able to stack multiple things at one time is going to be super, super beneficial to you hitting your goals. If you're serious about dropping this body fat, you have to become a calorie burning, non-stop moving machine. Being stagnant, being sedentary will put you further and further from your fat loss goal. Never stay still for more than an hour at a time, even if it's just to do a 1-minute of bodyweight squats at your desk or something. Number 4, fourth, sleep. Sleep. You have to get good quality, good quantity sleep. I've referenced this study so many times now. There's 2 groups of people. Both groups ate the exact same amount of food, the exact same food, the exact calorie amount. One group got 8 hours of full sleep, while the other group only got 5.5 hours of shortened sleep. Both groups lost the same amount of weight, but The short sleep group lost mostly muscle, while the full 8-hour group lost body fat. The more muscle you keep, the more muscle you have, the longer you're going to live. I promise you. I know we are talking short-term fat loss here, but if you have to prioritize muscle if you want short-term and long-term fat loss goals. I've done a full masterclass episode number 9, the importance of sleep on your fat loss goals. Go ahead and listen to that. Create your own sleep routine and create your own sleep sanctuary. This is going to be a huge factor. Number 5, fifth, we kind of covered this in the don't drink any of your liquid calories here, but I feel like it needs to have its own thing. No alcohol. Hold off on the alcohol. Now, don't get me wrong. You can have a glass of wine here and there, and you can have a gin and tonic here and there, and you're going to lose weight. I drink alcohol all the time. I'm not really talking about alcohol being bad here. What I'm talking about is the lifestyle choices and the metabolic processes that take place after drinking alcohol. Your inhibition is lowered. You're more likely to risk and eat those poor decision foods. You're more likely to eat larger portions. And remember, your body prioritizes metabolizing alcohol first. So the rest of that food is going to be most likely stored. Lots of people drink their alcohol with soda, and we all know how I feel about soda. I'm just saying, if you want to lose the fastest weight possible, just avoid alcohol until your special event. Plus, when your special event comes, your tolerance for alcohol is going to be dropped, so you'll be a cheaper date. That's always a plus. So, recap, eat only real foods, drink more water and only water, take any opportunity possible to move and never stay still for more than an hour, get good quality and quantity sleep, and avoid getting tipsy. And while if you do this starting today and you made these changes long term, 1 year from now, you'll probably be in some of the best shape of your life. I'm also talking about short term. If you just did this for 4 weeks leading up to your event, you'll have lost body fat. You will most likely have retained most of your muscle, depending on your training regimen, of course, and you'll have done it safely, effectively, and depending on after your special event and your lifestyle choice or whatever, you could lose it sustainably long term. Notice that I didn't say cut your calories. Notice that I didn't say track your calories. Notice that I didn't say run your face off on a treadmill and with cardio until you're dead. No, this is not the way. I promise you, friends, I've seen it far too often. If we know anything, the shortest route to your solution is usually not going to get you to the route that you want to end up going. All right, team. So I think we're going to stop right there for this Q&A episode. Let me know if you enjoyed the Q&A format. And if I didn't get to your question, I'm going to do my best to get to it in a future episode, or I'll just cover it more completely in a masterclass episode. Send me your questions, and also send this episode to someone that you think might have the same question that we covered today, and that might be able to help them out. All right, Dream Team, that's it for today. Please share with me any knowledge, thoughts, or questions you may have on today's topic. I'll make sure to answer and discuss on the next episode. You can ask your questions in the comments section or message me on any of the social media platforms. Also, I would be so thankful if you shared this episode with any of your friends or family that may be able to benefit from today's podcast. I would love it if you could do me a solid and screenshot this podcast and share it on your social media platforms and just write one takeaway, one aha moment that you got from this episode. This will help me know what's really valuable to you, and so I can keep the good information coming. And it also lets your network know if this podcast is worth a listen to them. Thank you so much for listening and learning here with us on the Livin the Dream podcast. We are so grateful for you being a part of this lifelong learning journey. If you have any topics you'd like to discuss, please let us know in the comments or by messaging me on Instagram at CoachDamian_SD. Be kind to someone today. Smile at someone today, and leave every person you come into contact with better than before. Until next time, friends, keep living the dream.